I spent Christmas Eve alone at a Vietnamese restaurant, staring at a bowl of pho I couldn't taste. The broth was probably perfect. Maria always made it perfect, but I might as well have been eating cardboard. I had no idea that in about 10 minutes, a woman I barely knew was about to change my entire life. The restaurant was nearly empty. Most people were home with their families, which is exactly where I should have been. Where I would have been if my daughter hadn't uninvited me 3 days earlier. "Dad, I need to talk to you about Christmas." Jessica's voice had that tight, professional tone she used when she was about to deliver bad news to a client. "Brad's parents are flying in from Boston. They're very traditional. Old money, you know? And they have certain expectations about presentation." I'd waited through her pause, knowing what was coming but hoping I was wrong. "The thing is, they're staying at our place, and with the dinner party we're hosting, and Brad's promotion announcement, it's just going to be really formal. And honestly, Dad, I think you'd be uncomfortable. You know how you are at those fancy things. Remember that benefit dinner? You wore your Seahawks jacket. That was 5 years ago, Jessica. And it was a fundraiser for the Boys and Girls Club, not the Met Gala. I know. But this is important for Brad's career. His parents are they're judging everything. And you know how you like to talk about your teaching stories, and they don't really get that world. They're all Harvard and Yale and investment banking. I just think it would be easier if I wasn't there." "Don't make it sound like that. We'll do something, just us, maybe in January, after things settle down." We both knew January would never come, just like last Thanksgiving had been too hectic with Brad's work trip, and Easter had been just Brad's family this year. I told her I understood. What else could I say? That my only child was ashamed of her retired public school teacher father, that I'd raised her alone after her mother died, worked 2 jobs to send her to college, and now I wasn't polished enough for her in-laws? So there I was, $73 poorer for a hotel stay because I couldn't stand being in my empty house on Christmas Eve, eating soup I couldn't taste at the only place open in my neighborhood. "You okay, Mr. David?" Maria Chen stood by my table, wiping her hands on her apron. She was maybe 55, with streaks of gray in her black hair and the kind of warm eyes that made you want to tell her your problems. I'd been coming to her restaurant every Friday for the past year, ever since my doctor told me I needed to eat better than the frozen dinners I'd been surviving on. "I'm fine, Maria. Soup's great, as always." She looked at me the way my wife used to, the look that said she knew I was lying and we both knew she knew. "You should not be alone on Christmas Eve." She pulled out the chair across from me and sat down without asking. "Why, you not with family? My daughter's busy. Big, important dinner party." I tried to keep the bitterness out of my voice. Maria made a small noise that might have been sympathy or disapproval. "How long since you see her?" "Thanksgiving before last. 20 months. But who was counting? She was quiet for a moment, then stood up decisively. "You come to back. We're having dinner with my family. No one should eat alone on Christmas." "Oh no, I couldn't." "You could. You will." She was already walking toward the kitchen. "My husband, Tom. He's bringing the kids back from his mother's house. We eat in 1 hour. You come." I started to protest, but she waved her hand dismissively. "You helped my Amy with her college essay last month. You think I forget? Now you eat with us." Is decided. That's how I found myself in the back kitchen of Faux Saigon, surrounded by the Chen family and the best home-cooked meal I'd had in 3 years. Tom was a contractor, quiet and solid, who nodded along as Maria talked. Their son Michael was home from his sophomore year at UW, full of engineering stories I actually understood from my years teaching high school physics. And Amy, their daughter, was a high school senior, stressing about college applications. "Mr. Martinez helped me so much with my personal statement," Amy told her parents in Vietnamese, which she didn't know I could partially understand from my years teaching. "He's the one who told me to write about learning English, not about being class president." "You know Vietnamese?" Maria asked, delighted when I admitted I'd picked up some phrases from students over the years. The dinner lasted 4 hours. We ate traditional Christmas ham alongside Vietnamese spring rolls. They told me about their family's journey from Vietnam and I told them about my wife, Sarah, gone 3 years now from cancer. They didn't flinch when I got emotional. They just passed me another egg roll and kept talking. When I finally left at midnight, Maria hugged me tight. "You come back Sunday. We always do family dinner Sunday. You come." I couldn't impose. Not impose. Is family dinner. Now you are family. She said it so simply, as if it were already decided, already true. I didn't believe her then. But I showed up that Sunday anyway, because my house was too quiet and Maria's invitation felt like a lifeline I didn't know I needed. That first Sunday dinner became a ritual. Then it became the highlight of my week. Then, gradually, it became my life. I'd show up around 4 and help Tom with whatever project he was working on, fixing a wobbly table, repairing the restaurant's back door, installing new shelves. He taught me about Vietnamese wood joinery techniques, while I showed him tricks for dealing with Seattle's constant rain damage. We didn't talk much, but we didn't need to. Meanwhile, I'd help Amy with her homework. Not just English anymore. History, literature, SAT prep. She was brilliant, that kid. But her parents had never been to college and didn't understand the American application system. I helped her navigate it all. We spent hours at the kitchen table, going over essays and recommendation letters and scholarship forms. Michael was harder to help. He was way beyond my level in engineering, but we bonded over other things. I taught him to fix cars. He taught me about cryptocurrency, though I never really understood it. We'd sit in the garage, working on his beat-up Honda, talking about everything and nothing. And Maria. Maria fed me. Not just food, though the food was incredible. She fed my soul. She asked about my day. She remembered that I liked extra lime in my pho. She scolded me when I looked tired. She made me laugh with stories about difficult customers. She reminded me what it felt like to matter to someone. The first Tet celebration I attended, I felt like an imposter. Maria's extended family filled the restaurant, and I was clearly the odd one out, a white guy in his 60s surrounded by 3 generations of Vietnamese Americans. But Maria's mother, who barely spoke English, pressed a red envelope into my hand and said something that Maria translated as, "You are good luck for family." I tried to give it back. Maria refused. "You're family now," she said firmly. "Family receives lucky money." I spent that night helping set up decorations, learning to make bánh chung, and listening to stories about Vietnam I'd never learned in any history book. Tom's father pulled me aside and taught me the proper way to give respect to elders. Michael showed me how to play traditional card games. Amy made me try every single dish, laughing at my reaction to the more adventurous flavors. When I went home that night, I realized I hadn't thought about Jessica once all day. Not once. The ache that had lived in my chest since Sarah died felt smaller somehow. Jessica called the next week. Not to ask how I was, but to ask if I could drive 3 hours to her old storage unit and grab some boxes she needed. "Can't you hire movers?" I asked. "Dad, it's just a few boxes. You're not doing anything." I told her I was busy on Sunday. I didn't tell her I was busy making spring rolls with Maria's family and helping Amy study for finals. Something stopped me. Maybe I knew she wouldn't approve. Jessica had always been subtly uncomfortable with my work in public schools, with my diverse students, with my middle-class life. She'd wanted me to be more successful, more polished, more like Brad's investment banker father. The calls from Jessica became less frequent. 3 months apart, 6 months, a text on my birthday, an email at Christmas. Each interaction was transactional. Could I send her my old tax returns for some financial thing? Did I still have her baby photos? I stopped expecting more. I stopped hurting every time I realized she didn't care how I was doing. Because every Sunday, I had a family that did care. Amy got into Cornell. We celebrated like she'd won the lottery because for her family, she had. I helped her pack for college, giving her all the advice I'd once wished I could give Jessica. "Call home every week," I told her, "even when you're busy, especially when you're busy." She hugged me tight. "You're like my grandfather," she said. "Better than, because my actual grandfather doesn't know anything about American college." I cried in my car on the way home. Happy tears, Sad tears, I couldn't tell the difference anymore. Michael graduated and took a gap year, traveling through Southeast Asia to connect with his roots. Before he left, he asked me to write him a recommendation letter for graduate school applications. I wrote 3 drafts before I was satisfied, pouring into it everything I'd observed about his character, his kindness, his brilliant mind. "You're going to do amazing things," I told him the night before he left. "Because I had good teachers," he said, looking at me meaningfully, "not just in school." The years blurred together in the best way. Sarah's death stopped feeling like yesterday and started feeling like a gentle memory. My house stopped feeling like a mausoleum and started feeling like a place I occasionally slept between Sundays. Maria and Tom started calling me Uncle David. Their extended family accepted me as an odd but beloved fixture. I was the guy who could fix anything, who knew about college applications, who always brought good wine and terrible jokes. I was happy. For the first time since Sarah died, I was genuinely, consistently happy. Then Jessica called. "Dad? It's me." She sounded surprised when I answered, as if she'd expected voicemail. It had been 11 months since we'd last spoken. "Jessica, how are you?" "Good. Really good. Listen, I have some exciting news. Brad and I are getting married. Finally. Right? We're doing a destination wedding in Maui. Small, intimate, just close family and friends." My heart jumped. "That's wonderful, honey. When?" "January 15th. I know it's short notice, but Brad's parents could only do that weekend. I'm emailing you details. It'll be at this gorgeous resort, right on the beach. Very upscale. I'll be there." She hesitated. I heard it in that pause, and my stomach dropped. "The thing is, Dad, it's a really small wedding. Like 50 people max. And Brad's family is huge. And with his business partners and my friends from the firm, the numbers are really tight. Jessica, I just don't know if it makes sense for you to fly all the way to Hawaii for a weekend when you don't really know anyone there. And honestly, it's going to be really expensive. This resort is like $600 a night and with airfare. I just don't want you to spend that kind of money when you're on a fixed income. I'm your father." "I know. And we'll celebrate when we get back, I promise. Maybe dinner, just the 3 of us? But the wedding is it's very Brad's scene, you know? Very formal, I just think you'd be uncomfortable. I'd love to say I fought harder, that I demanded to be there, that I made her see how much she was hurting me. But I didn't. I just said okay. I said I understood. I congratulated her and hung up. Then I sat in my living room for 3 hours, not moving, not crying, just sitting. Sunday dinner that week, Maria knew something was wrong immediately. I tried to hide it, but she pulled me aside while I was helping with dishes. "What happened?" I told her. All of it. The uninvitations, the phone calls that never came, the way my own daughter seemed embarrassed by my existence, the wedding I wasn't invited to. Maria's face went through several emotions: anger, sadness, determination. She dried her hands on her apron and called Tom and Michael and Amy into the kitchen. "We're going to Hawaii," she announced. Everyone looked confused. "For what?" Tom asked. "Michael's gap year celebration. He's been back 3 months. We never did proper family trip for it. We go to Maui. We celebrate." She looked at me. "You come with us. You are family." "Maria, I can't." "Can. Will." Michael earned it with his Harvard acceptance. "We planned this." She hadn't planned any such thing, but her family caught on quickly. "Yeah," Michael said slowly, grinning. "We were definitely planning a Hawaii trip, had it scheduled for mid-January? January 15th weekend," Maria said firmly. "Already booked." She definitely hadn't booked anything. "You come with us. We celebrate Michael's achievement. Uncle David. You wrote his recommendations, you should be there." I tried to argue. They ignored me. By the end of the night, they'd confirmed reservations at a resort in Maui different from Jessica's. Maria made sure of that for the exact same weekend. Tom had remembered he'd been saving airline miles. Amy had just realized she had that weekend off from her winter internship. They were lying. All of them. Spending money they probably needed for something else. changing whatever real plans they had. For me, I cried that night. Big, gulping sobs I hadn't let out since Sarah's funeral, because my own daughter didn't want me at her wedding. But this family that owed me nothing, was willing to fly across an ocean to make sure I wasn't alone. The week before the trip, Michael asked if I could read over his grad school personal statement one more time. We sat at their kitchen table, and I helped him refine his essay about bridging cultures through engineering, about using technology to help immigrant communities. "You know," he said carefully, "there's a beach bonfire thing that Friday night, at our resort. They do this monthly thing where guests can share stories about family and tradition. I was thinking of talking about what family means, and I'd want to mention you. Is that okay?" I understood what he was really asking. He knew Jessica's wedding was at a resort nearby. He knew there was a chance we might run into her. He was asking permission to claim me publicly as family. "I'd be honored," I told him. The flight to Maui was one of the happiest experiences of my life. Maria had somehow managed to get us all seats together. We played cards. Amy showed me TikToks I didn't understand. Tom and I did the crossword puzzle. Maria fed everyone snacks. She'd packed Vietnamese sandwiches and fruit and cookies. "You're sure this is okay?" I asked Maria quietly while the others slept. "This is expensive. Michael got into Harvard because of you," she said simply. "Amy got full scholarship to Cornell because of you. You think we don't know what college counselors cost? What application help costs? You did all of it for free. For 3 years. You are family, David. Stop arguing." The resort was beautiful, a smaller, family-friendly place on the less touristy side of the island. The first 3 days were perfect. We went snorkeling, ate at food trucks, watched the sunset. I taught Amy to surf. Badly. Michael took 1,000 photos. Maria and Tom renewed their vows on the beach. Just the 5 of us there. And they asked me to say a few words about commitment and family that left everyone crying. Friday evening, we went to the beach bonfire. It was hokey and wonderful staff in Hawaiian shirts, traditional music, stories from different families about their heritage. Michael had signed up to speak. He got up in front of maybe 60 people and told our story. "Family isn't just the people you're born to," he said. "My parents immigrated from Vietnam with nothing. They built a life, a business, a home. They taught me about hard work and sacrifice, but they couldn't teach me about American college applications. They didn't know about recommendation letters or financial aid forms or how to write personal statements. I wouldn't be going to Harvard in the fall without the man who's become our family these past 5 years. Uncle David, could you stand up?" I did, embarrassed, as people applauded. Michael continued, "He's not Vietnamese. He's not related to us by blood. He was a customer who became a friend who became family. He tutored me and my sister for free. He spent hundreds of hours helping us with college applications. He fixed our broken dishwasher and our broken car and, honestly, sometimes our broken hearts. He shows up every single Sunday. He learned to make bánh chung, even though he doesn't like the taste. He celebrates Tet with us every year. He's at every birthday, every holiday, every important moment. That's what family does. They show up, not because they have to, but because they choose to." Michael looked at me directly. "You chose us, Uncle David, and we chose you right back. You are the grandfather my sister and I never had. You're our family, and we love you." I was crying. So was Maria. Half the people there were crying. The applause was thunderous. Michael sat down next to me and hugged me tight. "Meant every word," he whispered. "I love you too, kid," I managed to say. As people were congratulating us and sharing their own family stories, I saw her, standing about 30 feet away, at the edge of the bonfire crowd, was Jessica. She looked stunning in a white rehearsal dinner dress because, of course, this was her wedding weekend, and of course the resort was close enough that they'd heard the music and wandered over. Brad stood next to her, looking confused. Behind them were several people I assumed were his parents and relatives. Our eyes met across the bonfire. I watched the emotions play across her face. Confusion, recognition, shock, something that might have been hurt. She walked over slowly. Brad followed. looking uncertain. Dad? What are you doing here? Hello, Jessica. I stood up. Maria and Tom immediately flanked me. Protective. These are my friends. Maria and Tom Chen. Their children Michael and Amy. This is my daughter, Jessica. And her fiancé, Brad. Friends? Jessica looked around at all of us. At Michael still wiping tears from his face. At the obvious family unit we formed. I don't understand. How do you know these people? David is family, Maria said quietly but firmly in her accented English. He has been with us every week, every holiday, for 5 years. He is grandfather to my children. I watched Jessica's face. She was doing the math. 5 years. Every week. Every holiday. The holidays she'd told me she was too busy for. The Sundays she never called. The Thanksgivings and Christmases I'd spent alone. I hadn't been alone at all. You didn't tell me, she said. And there was accusation in her voice, as if I'd betrayed her by having a life she didn't know about. You didn't ask, I said simply. You never asked how I was, what I was doing, if I was alone. You called when you needed something. You didn't want me at your holidays. So I found people who did. But she started to say something. Caught herself. But I knew what she meant. They're not our kind of people. They're not impressive enough. They're not Brad's parents. They're my family, I said. The family I chose. The family that chose me back. Brad's mother was watching with barely concealed disapproval. Well, she said with a forced smile, I'm sure this is all very nice. But we should get back to our guests. Jessica, your rehearsal dinner is starting. Jessica looked torn. I'd never seen her look so uncertain. Dad, maybe we should talk. Not tonight, I said gently. Tonight is your rehearsal dinner. Tomorrow is your wedding. Congratulations. I mean that. I hope you're very happy. But you're here. You could come. No, Maria said firmly before I could speak. He is here with us. For our family celebration. You made your choice about wedding. He is our family now. I saw something crack in Jessica's face. Dad, I think your guests are waiting, I said. I wasn't angry anymore. Just tired. Sad for what we'd lost, but grateful for what I'd found. Be happy, Jessica. That's all I ever wanted for you. She stood there for another moment, tears in her eyes, then turned and walked away. Brad followed, looking back once with something that might have been sympathy or embarrassment. We sat back down around the bonfire. Amy squeezed my hand. Tom put his arm around my shoulders. Maria kissed my cheek. Are you okay? Michael asked quietly. I thought about it. Really thought about it. Was I okay? My only biological child had just walked away, probably for good. But I was surrounded by people who loved me, who'd flown across an ocean to make sure I wasn't alone, who called me family and meant it. Yeah, I said, and I meant it. I'm okay. The next day, Saturday, we spent on the beach. We built sandcastles and drank too many Mai Tais and laughed until our sides hurt. At one point, I was teaching Amy to fly a kite we'd bought from a beach vendor, and I looked back at the others, Maria and Tom holding hands in the surf, Michael taking photos of the sunset, this family that had adopted me, and I felt completely, utterly at peace. That evening, Jessica called. I let it go to voicemail. She called twice more Sunday morning. I finally answered Sunday afternoon, as we were packing to leave. Dad, please, can we talk? Just for a few minutes? I met her in the lobby of her resort. She looked exhausted, her hair perfect but her eyes red. Beautiful wedding? I asked, sitting across from her in a plush armchair. I kept thinking you should be there, she admitted, walking me down the aisle, dancing the father-daughter dance. Brad noticed. He asked why you weren't there. What did you tell him? The truth. That I didn't invite you because I was ashamed. She said it quietly, looking at her hands. Ashamed of your clothes, your house, your job. Ashamed that you weren't like Brad's father with his country club memberships and his connections. I wanted you to be more impressive. I was a high school teacher for 40 years. I helped kids learn physics. I wasn't impressive by your standards, but I was good at what I did. And I was a good father. You were the best father, she said, crying now. and I threw that away because I wanted to fit into Brad's world. And you found a new family. You moved on. Without me. You moved on first, Jessica. Years ago. I just finally stopped chasing you. Can we fix this? Can we try again? I looked at her, my beautiful, accomplished, broken daughter, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years when I looked at her. Not pain, not longing, not even anger, just sadness for what could have been. I don't know, I told her honestly. You didn't just uninvite me from your wedding. You've been uninviting me from your life for 6 years. Every holiday, every birthday, every moment that mattered, you didn't want me there. And the Chen family? They wanted me everywhere. They made space for me. They chose me. You didn't. I choose you now, she whispered. It doesn't work like that. You can't choose someone after they've stopped waiting for you to choose them. I stood up. I have a flight to catch. I'm going home with my family. They're not your family. Yes, I said firmly. They are. Maybe not by blood, but by everything that actually matters. I hope you'll be happy, Jessica. I really do. But I'm happy now too. And I'm not going to give that up to wait by the phone for you to decide you need me again. I walked away. She called after me, but I didn't turn around. On the flight home, squeezed between Maria and Amy, with Tom and Michael across the aisle, I thought about family, about what it means, about blood and choice, and showing up. Thank you, I told Maria, as we flew through the clouds, for all of this, for choosing me. You chose us first, she said simply. That Friday night, you said yes to dinner. You could have said no. You could have stayed lonely and sad. But you said yes, and you kept saying yes, to Sunday dinners, to helping my kids, to learning about our culture, to being part of our life. You chose us every single week for 5 years. We just chose you back. And that, I realized, was the whole truth of it. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shows up. It's who says yes when you're alone on Christmas Eve. It's who celebrates your kids' achievements like they're their own. It's who flies to Hawaii to make sure you're not forgotten on what should have been one of the most important weekends of your life. Family is the people who choose you and keep choosing you every Sunday, every holiday, every moment that matters. I'm 71 years old now. Sarah's been gone 6 years. Jessica and I exchange emails. Sometimes cordial, distant, safe. She's pregnant with her first child. She's asked if I want to be involved. I told her maybe, someday, if she's willing to actually have a relationship and not just visits when convenient. But I have 2 grandchildren already. Amy's daughter, born last year, calls me Ong Nguai Vietnamese for maternal grandfather. Michael's getting married next month to a wonderful woman who already calls me Uncle David. I'm walking Michael down the aisle. His father and I are both doing it, one on each side, because Tom says that's what family does. I'm at the Chen house every Sunday still. I've taught their youngest nephew to play chess. I've helped their niece with her medical school applications. I've become a fixture in a family that isn't mine by blood but is mine in every way that matters. People sometimes ask if I regret how things turned out with Jessica. And the honest answer is yes. I regret that she felt she had to choose between me and the life she wanted. I regret that I wasn't enough for her as I was. But I don't regret finding the Chens. I don't regret saying yes that Christmas Eve 5 years ago. I don't regret any Sunday dinner, any Tet celebration, any hour spent helping those kids with homework. Because family isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. It's something you choose. And when you're brave enough to say yes to someone's invitation, when you're willing to sit at a table you weren't born to, when you open yourself to people who open themselves to you, that's when you find it. That's when you find home.